This is Free Press TV. Global headlines unfiltered. I'm Michael Patterson. Tonight, a geopolitical showdown is unfolding between two of the world's largest democracies. The issue: oil, but not just any oil, Russian oil. 3 years after India drastically increased its imports of discounted Russian crude, US President Donald Trump is now using that decision as a weapon in his escalating trade war. On Wednesday, Trump signed an executive order slapping an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods, citing India's economic ties to what he calls the Russian war machine. But here's the context you won't hear on corporate networks. When the West, led by the US and Europe, imposed sanctions on Moscow following the invasion of Ukraine, India filled the vacuum. It bought cheap Russian oil. That move stabilized global prices, supported Europe's energy needs, and quietly pleased the Biden White House, which knew a total embargo might send oil prices spiraling. In fact, India's oil pivot saved its companies an estimated $13 billion over 2 years, a bargain struck not just in commerce but in strategy. But now Donald Trump has decided to crush that workaround. Effective August 27th, tariffs on Indian imports into the US will double, throwing a wrench into trade worth billions. Trump posted on Truth Social that India profited from people being killed by Russian aggression, a claim that has stunned New Delhi and ignited diplomatic outrage. India's foreign ministry didn't mince words. It called the penalty unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable, vowing to take all actions necessary to protect national interests. But here's what matters. Legally and technologically, India can stop importing Russian oil, but politically, that's another matter entirely. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, riding high on nationalism and re-election victories, won't be seen as capitulating to Washington, especially not in an election cycle. Modi's message is clear: India is sovereign and will not be bullied by foreign pressure. And while logistical changes are possible, India could eventually return to buying oil from Saudi Arabia or Iraq. The shift would come with major costs. India now imports over 2 million barrels per day from Russia, more than a third of its total crude. Reversing that flow could take years, not months, but that's assuming it wants to comply at all. Energy expert Dattatreya Das, a former executive with India's national oil company, told Ember that modern Indian refineries can handle multiple oil grades, meaning technical constraints are no longer a serious obstacle. So, what's the holdup? Contracts, yes. Shipping routes, yes. But mostly, profits. India's oil refiners, like Reliance and Nayara Energy, the latter partly owned by Russia's Rosneft, have made billions from this setup. That money has strengthened India's currency, stabilized its fuel markets, and padded corporate bottom lines. Yet everyday Indian consumers haven't seen much relief. Prices at the pump remain high, and fuel taxes are carefully managed to smooth out volatility. So the real stakes here are political and global. If Trump's tariffs go forward, they threaten to shave billions off India's economy, disrupt global energy flows, and fracture a key US-India relationship that has only recently warmed. Ironically, a move intended to punish Russia may hurt America's relationship with one of its most important strategic partners and gift Moscow yet another wedge between Western allies. What happens next will test the balance of global diplomacy, energy security, and the limits of American power in a multipolar world. This is Free Press TV. I'm Michael Patterson, breaking it down, one truth at a time.